Hey Threadheads, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying a variation of one of the fall classics, the sucker spawn. So today I'm going to be using material called GloBug Ultra Chenille, and this is a little bit of a departure from the yarn that you would use on a regular sucker spawn. So this just kind of makes it a little bit of a neater tie. But you can get this material in a bunch of really eggy colors like Alaskan Roe, Cotton Candy, Oregon Cheese, Blood Red, etc., etc. So basically we're going to tie this similar to what we would be doing with a crystal meth sucker spawn. And this one just kind of adds a little bit of variety to your fly box and gives you a different palette of colors to choose from. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like and subscribe. If you leave a comment, we'll put you into a draw for our next set of flies and decals. Let's have a look at the material list and get started. Alright, so let's get started. We're going to put a fresh hook in the vise. So we'll take out this old fly first. And for the hook, we're going to be using a Mustad C49s, and today we're using a size 6. I'm going to put a brass bead, a copper colored brass bead, on the hook before we put in the vise. If you want to use something a little bit heavier like tungsten, feel free to go ahead. For thread, I'm going to be using a 210D flat wax nylon, and this one is the hot orange, like a fluorescent orange. And I use the 210 just to kind of help cover the hook shank, because otherwise it's going to be bare, or you might have gaps in there. So there's no materials actually covering. So we'll go ahead and we're going to put a base layer of thread on the hook. We want to go down to about where the barb sits on the hook, and then we're going to wind back, and we want to do close touching turns. We want to basically cover up any space that's on the hook. So for this one, we're going to wind back to just around the hook point, and then we're going to grab our material here. So I like to kind of keep the material tamed while I'm tying by just hanging 2 strands out of the bag and then just feed it as I need it. So I'm going to be using light roe today. It's a nice orange color. And to get that prepared, I'm just going to take those 2 ends and I'm going to peel off just a little bit of the material off the core. So if you peel that off, you'll get a little bit of a dual rope core in the middle of this. You just want to pull off enough that you're going to be able to easily bind that down to the hook shank. And then you're not adding a lot of bulk to the back end of the fly. So we'll just tie in that little tag. Make sure those are tied in tightly, and then we'll go ahead and we'll tie down the rest of the material to the end of our thread base. Then we'll advance our thread a few wraps forward. And what we want to do is we just want to create a small loop on the back. And we're just going to pinch that, and we're going to do a pinch wrap. Kind of pull that thread down and tighten it. We want to try and make sure that we keep most of that material on top of the hook shank if we can. Once we got about 3 or 4 wraps, we pull everything up and we create our next loop. I'm going to take that second loop and make it just a little bit bigger. And again, we're going to use a pinch wrap. And we're just going to do a tight pinch with the chenille. And then we want to just basically take that thread through that same wrap about 3 to 4 times. And again, we'll just pull that up. Want to make sure that everything's off the bottom of the hook shank. And we'll do that again. So we're going to create a slightly larger loop. So we're kind of getting progressively larger as we move forward on the fly, and we're always kind of pulling up that material just to make sure that that bottom stays nice and clear. And then for the 4th loop, we're going to keep that around the same size as our 3rd, We're going to take our thread forward a little bit, and we're going to add our wraps. Just make sure that we keep everything pulled upwards. And then we're going to do our last loop of chenille. And we're going to make this one just a little bit smaller than the fourth one. So I'm tying on a size 6 hook here, and that's a bit of a large hook for this fly. But you probably don't want to go any smaller than, say, like a number 10 for this chenille. It's a little bit thicker than what you might get with some of the other materials out there. So if you want smaller ones, I would move back to something like the GloBug yarn, or even look at doing one of the crystal sucker spawns. You can get a little bit smaller into the size 12s and 14s there. So we're going to add a whip finish, and we're going to add 2 just to make sure that this fly is durable. And because we've got those exposed thread wraps on the bottom, what I like to do for this is actually just take a little bit of a UV product, and in this case we're going to be using the Solarez Bone Dry. So we're just going to brush on a touch of it onto the bottom of those exposed thread wraps, and that way the fly is not going to come apart if it does get nicked on something sharp in the river or on a fish's tooth or something like that. So we just brush that onto the bottom thread wraps, and then we'll give that a few seconds under the UV light. Just want to make sure that that gets cured. And there you go. There's your Ultra Chenille sucker spawn. And one thing you can also do with this, you can kind of pull those little eggs apart, and you can kind of push them together in a different way, and you get a little bit different looking little cluster there. Kind of changes the look from a little bit more uniform to something a little bit more clusterish. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you in the next one. Hey fly tyers, thanks for stopping by and checking out my fly tying videos. If you enjoyed the video and want to show your support, hit the thumbs up and share it to your social networks. I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, be sure to hit the bell icon to get notifications on my latest fly patterns, tips, and reviews. If you have a question or comment, leave a message below. You'll also be entered into the next draw for some of the flies I tie and a few stickers. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.